The hunt for the missing Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 has now entered its second year. The search continues in the Indian Ocean west of Australia, but no clues have been found as to the plane's whereabouts. NHK World's Tratieta Gausen is in Malaysia's capital, Kuala Lumpur, to cover the story. Tra.
Relatives of the plane's 239 passengers and crew members have had no outlet for their anger and grief in the past year. They gathered in their respective countries over the weekend to express their hope that those who disappeared will soon be found. I visited a gathering in Kuala Lumpur held on Sunday. The day marked exactly 1 year since Flight 370 went missing. About 50 relatives of passengers and crew members from Malaysia and China attended the event. 153 of the 227 passengers on board were Chinese nationals, who made up the largest group by nationality.
I believe my son is still alive.
Flight 370 vanished from radar screens on March 8th last year during a flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing after losing contact with air traffic controllers. The aircraft was later found to have been heading toward the southern Indian Ocean in the opposite direction to Beijing. The search is still ongoing. Australia has been leading the operation to find MH370 far off its western coast. Those involved have had to deal with some of the least familiar parts of the planet deep beneath the Indian Ocean. NHK World's Janina Sugano looks back on 12 months spent looking for one missing airplane.
The disappearance of Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 triggered a massive search. 8 countries, including the United States, China and Japan, scoured the Indian Ocean. Australia led the air and sea operation, offering the use of an Air Force base in Perth. Military ships and privately owned boats from Australia joined in. With no sign of wreckage or the black box flight recorders, the search moved below the surface.
The Australian government agreed to lead a much more extensive underwater search for the aircraft. The second phase was actually mapping the sea floor to support that search.
Analysis of faint blips emitted by the missing plane steered the operation towards an area 1,800 kilometres west of Perth.
No underwater search has been carried out on this sort of scale before, so we had to plan very carefully what sort of equipment, expertise and vessels we would need.
Researchers from this institute analysed the topography of over 200,000 square kilometres of seabed. Radio waves were bounced off the seabed to create a 3D map. The dramatic terrain features an east-west trench up to 6 kilometres underwater.
That's a depth difference, roughly 2/3 the height of Mount Everest. So it gives you some idea of scale. It is a very challenging terrain.
The search area narrowed to 60,000 square kilometres, where the Australian government believes the chance of locating the plane is highest. 4 search vessels sent to the area have failed to find any trace of it.
We're very conscious that there is an unsolved mystery here, and that finding the aircraft is a key component to solving the mystery. We're also very conscious that there are the families of many missing people who have no closure because they do not know what has happened to their loved ones.
This phase of the search is set to end in May. So much time and money has already been spent, and MH370 is still missing. Janina Sugano, NHK World, Sydney.
Malaysian government officials declared the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 an accident in January. They said this would speed up compensation to passengers' families, but many of the relatives are rejecting the decision. NHK World's Shoko Matsumoto reports.
The day after the Malaysian government's declaration, Many of the passengers' relatives expressed their anger.
They still have provided absolutely no proof or substantiation to their declaration.
I don't believe such a big aircraft could crash into the ocean and not break, leaving no debris, no bodies.
Wen Yan came from Beijing. Her husband was one of the passengers. He worked in real estate and frequently traveled between Malaysia and Beijing. The day the plane went missing, the couple was supposed to meet for the first time in 4 months. Their only child, a 4-year-old daughter, is seen dancing in this video. She asked her mother to film her and show the video to her father. Wen still tells her daughter he is on a business trip in Malaysia.
My daughter keeps asking me to let her see her father soon. I believe my husband is alive. I want him to come back.
Most of the passengers were Chinese, including Wen's husband. Their families have often traveled to Malaysia to get any new information. Last week, they went to government offices and the headquarters of Malaysia Airlines. The families demanded an explanation for why the plane's disappearance was declared an accident.
On what grounds did you determine that the plane's disappearance was an accident? Show us the evidence.
But the officials provided no answers.
They are responsible. They have an obligation to meet us and answer our questions.
1 year since the plane went missing, the relatives, including Wen Yan, attended a rally in Kuala Lumpur. Their distrust of the authorities' handling of the investigation and search is only deepening.
Where is the airplane? What happened to it? Even if the whole world gives up, we'll still be waiting.
No major clue as to what happened to the plane has been found. And the families still hold out hope for their loved ones. Shoko Matsumoto, NHK World, Kuala Lumpur.
Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak stressed in a statement on Sunday that Malaysia remains committed to the search. On the same day, Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott indicated that the search will be conducted over a wider area if the plane is not discovered in the current search by the end of May. Incidents concerning aviation safety have made headlines in the past year. They include the downing of Malaysia Airlines Flight 17 in eastern Ukraine, which raised the issue of flights over conflict zones, and the crash of an AirAsia jet off Indonesia in bad weather. The aviation market within Asia and the market for flights between Asia and the rest of the world are expected to continue their rapid expansion as the region develops economically. So it is crucial to thoroughly study the cause of each accident and share the results. It is also important to strengthen the system of international cooperation to prevent recurrences. If such efforts are successful, this may ensure that the suffering of the relatives of the 239 passengers and crew members of Flight 370 will not be repeated. That wraps up our special coverage from Kuala Lumpur. I'm Tra Tirakosan.